else I can do this across.
He's like, no. Yeah, he's going, no.
I'll deny it.
So, I don't know if you were told, like, so we're not, we have no champion, no. So it's gonna be, so Sandy is working it out, and it will be put through two, because of the step we're missing. So we're missing our one and our number two. Both hit.
Oh, yeah, it's going around. I have to work all us. They don't have that many staff.
This one's
No, it's real bad.
yeah, you got 3-4 things.
Choice.
Do it just again.
Good evening and welcome to Norwalk City School District Board of Education regular meeting, Wednesday, February 12th, 2025. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Burkett? Yep. Mrs. Crawford?
Here.
Mr. Gonzalez? Mr. Norris?
Here.
Mr. Ritzenthaler?
Here. All right, at this time, we're going to stand for the national anthem, sing by our 4th grade league students.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose bright stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight was the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Now we'll turn for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. I know, I kept looking at you. Oh, there's some.
You already texted me.
All right. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Norris?
Yes.
Mr. Ritzenthaler?
Yes.
Mrs. Burkett? Yes. Mrs. Crawford?
Yes. Thanks. Special presentation.
Yes, tonight coming from Norwalk Middle School, we have Mr. Spettle and Mr. Beeman. We'd like to highlight some of the great programs we have going on, and that is one that Mr. Beeman leads at Norwalk Middle School. So Mr. Spettle, I'll turn it to you.
All right, so I brought Mr. Beeman. A couple of his students showed up, a couple didn't make it. There was a few ride issues, but he's in his second year teaching a creative writing class. This is a class that he pretty much developed on his own. There was the need for some, and you guys are receiving the latest edition of the newspaper, but there was a need for some electives, and so he wanted to find a creative way to make writing fun again, so that the kids would have a different area to write in a different class setting for it. So rather than being in their ELA all the time, so I'm gonna turn it over to him. He knows. He designed the class. He teaches it.
Ladies and gentlemen of the board.
Yeah, this is kind of nice. This is symmetry here. We've got actually one success story from first semester this year and a current rising star. The It's Trinity and Aiden. When we were looking several years ago for elective courses for the schedule at the middle school, I've always, believe it or not, if you know me at all, you know that I tend to run my mouth quite a bit, but my strength has always been in written expression, and I think with that being such a prominent part of testing, of everyday school activities, we really need to build a better appreciation for that. And so I mentioned to the principal at that point, I'd like to start this creative writing course, and I was kind of gonna just leave it in the hands of the kids and see what, that's the nice thing about an elective course, it's kind of grassroots, is you can just start it and see where it goes and have a framework and let the kids kind of guide it too, And that quickly last year morphed into, well, we can write stories, and we can do this, and we can do that. And what I was trying to do is approach from a lot of different angles. Okay, so you don't like writing in class. When you go to, and you have a writing assignment, you don't like it. So what do you like to write about? What do you like to talk about? What do you like to do? How do you like to approach it? So anyway, getting back to the first year of the class, that kind of quickly morphed into, well, we could sit here and write stories all the time. And I just brought up off the cuff one day, kind of have a need for a school newspaper here, and we don't have one. And you're a writing class. So, and they really latched onto it. They did a fantastic job. These guys are no different. It's they're a little bit apprehensive when they start, just like all 8th graders are. I don't know what I want to write about, and what am I supposed to do? And there was a little bit of that. There's always a little bit of that right at the beginning, but what happened, my point in saying so, excuse me, I was yelling at 14-year-olds all day. But my point in saying so is, this came out yesterday. Now this was more my guiding them along through their first issue, and as soon as it came out, what started to happen? People started coming up with ideas for the next one. Well, when can we start the next one? And this one did an entire page article on the Humane Society, which I think is fantastic. And they just now, we'll see where it goes, but at a very quick pace, they've taken ownership of it, which is really what the goal always is with any kind of an education, elective. I'm starting to toy around this semester with actually broadcasting using a YouTube channel, like taking some of the stories that we had in the newspaper, and then taking some of the kids maybe from the first semester who are now running opposite us in literature, and a couple of days a week, just maybe take a few of the stories in the newspaper and make it almost like a news program too. And the objective with that also is that we can kind of broadcast things out to the school community, to the student body in more real time with regard to the Stay in the Game program. Well, you're not going to want to miss this Friday because, we are going to have a drawing for donuts for the highest percentage of attendees and stuff like that. And we can, I think, get word out to them quicker if we get enough of the kids to, and I think they'll click on the link and say, yeah, I want to see what they're saying sometimes. These are their friends doing maybe sometimes clowny things, all kids like that. So, before we leave you on to your next agenda item, I did want to also mention, can't say enough positive things about the contribution of the Norwalk, Ohio News throughout this entire process. The Roach family are wonderful people. They have donated their time. When I reached out to Maddie, who I had in school quite a long time ago now, I haven't aged any, but she's gotten beautiful. But I said, would you mind? We're starting this newspaper, and in order to maybe build a little bit more excitement for it, would you guys have any interest in maybe reposting it for us online? They've done it, absolutely no questions asked. Everything that we have asked of them, they've gone over and above. And I mean, they're, like I said, they're just a wonderful family that is really invested in the school district. So this is a shameless plug, I guess. Anyone who is interested in a well-printed, well-written local newspaper that focuses on the good things that the schools are doing and the good things around the community. www.norwalkohionews.com. Please don't be afraid to subscribe. It's very reasonably priced. The other couple things I almost forgot. Mandy lives in Australia and did a video conference with us last spring at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, which means it's 2 o'clock in the morning her time. So she's up in the middle of the night just to work with our kids. Mr. and Mrs. Roach have been in every semester so far explaining journalism and, you know, what's the point of this and what's the point of that and why do you do this and where do you get a story. And the kids really enjoy it every single time. And like I said, I can't say enough about them. I really appreciate their help. So,
They both said they'd share a little bit of something, but they've.
absolutely.
If you guys wanna come out a little bit here,
Yeah,
just let a few steps there. Got microphones right here.
I don't know if we can talk them into that much.
My name is Aiden Khan. At first, I thought the class was just gonna be like another average writing class. Sit there all day, just write, normal writing. But then we started doing like different projects, and he started giving us ideas. And at first, it was again like there's nothing to really think of. You just come up with something random, do something about a sport. But then as you keep doing more, you get a lot more ideas for what to do. And it got a lot better. It eventually became really fun.
Great.
Hi, I'm Trinity, and I thought like the class would be really nice since I joined in the second semester. I thought it'd be really nice because I've heard really great comments from the first semester, and I was really excited to be part of the newspaper because I saw how the newspaper really went around the school, and it was really nice, and I really wanted to be part of that. And my article, I think I did a pretty good job on it since being in the class for almost 2 months now. I think I did pretty good.
You did a fantastic job. Trinity was the first one to step up with an original idea for their first issue. And that was 30 or 40 seconds after I suggested we were going to start the first edition. She said, "Can I do a story about the Humane Society?" Yes. Excellent. So I also wanted to point, you know, the kids are, just a couple more things, I won't take too much more of your time. But I have several students in this semester's class who are bilingual and fluent bilingual, and they have chosen this time around to do an entire story about the culture that, you know, maybe their parents grew up in, they partially grew up in, you know, what they've experienced in visiting different countries, but they want to print it in English and in Spanish, which I think is really cool. We had a couple students last year do that as well, where they actually did an entire presentation about culture, and this side was the English version, this side was the Spanish version. I am eternally impressed with kids who are conversationally fluent and, you know, at this stage, to know multiple languages and just be able to turn one on and one off. To me, that's a form of brilliance. So I'm glad that they want to, you know, expand on that. So, questions for me?
This is very interesting.
They do agree, and they've only been in there since this semester, this particular group.
Yeah, they started after Christmas break.
I'm glad you said that because I follow Norwalk Ohio News. I didn't notice this was in here. I think they're having some things with their email and stuff right now, so I keep missing stuff. But if not, I would love to get this in our board email if you wouldn't mind sending it to us. I would love to read it.
Sure. You know what? I'm sorry. It just keeps on. Things keep on popping up. The back page, an example of the kind of variations that we can do with this kind of thing. To me, written expression is not just with words on a page in paragraph form. Leo's an artist. And so Leo is creating an original comic that he is using. That's how he expresses himself in a written way. And he's a fantastic artist, as you can see.
And Leo, and then there's one other student as well that would have been in a study hall, and they've actually asked to be a part of the class rather than, so those are the good schedule changes we want to make, where they're asking to get back into a more academic setting.
Jerry, I want to tell you, you had Maddie in school, right? I had her mother. Talk about age, baby.
Grandson in school.
Okay.
This is awesome, and the fact that the kids are excited to do it, it just gives them the drive to and media one day, and, you know, it's just, I love that we're doing something like this. When we did it, when I had, you know, back in the Stone Ages, we had those square TVs in our room, our kids that were interested in doing it would do a morning broadcast. You know, it was just the morning news for the school, and basically what the principals are doing in the morning, they would do. And they would have news articles and stories, and it'd be like a 15-minute period. So I just think that's pretty cool that the kids are excited to do it. You know, at this young age, it's a big step to do something like this.
I gotta shout out my wife real quick. She's, you know, we teach in the same building, and she's a brilliant analytical mind. And so I spent 6 months prior to the first class last year, you know, bouncing ideas off each other. Well, I'm gonna do this kind of unit, I'm gonna do that kind of unit. Unfortunately for her, I guess, we end up using about half of them because this is just kind of the student guided portion aspect of the class is taken over, so. But she was a big part in the planning as well. Anyway. Thank
Never know
you.
what we're gonna learn from them.
What's that?
Never know what we're gonna learn from them.
Exactly.
So from a skill development, the two things we're looking at here, so writing is critical, and then what you two did right now, at your age, like, we have people out here that can be a little nervous if you've not been in that environment. So the fact that, are you speaking to groups of people? So talk about two skill sets that works across the board in anything that we choose to do in life. If you can write and express yourself that way, and if you can communicate, stand up in front of people, small group, big group, and talk, those are critical skills. So I know as a school, we look at content, ELA, math, but like from a just simple skill set, our students need to be talking more, discussing more, whether it be formal, informal, and writing. Super critical skills, and glad to see this happening at Norwalk Middle School.
One of these two children, and I won't name any names, swore that he wasn't gonna say anything. He didn't wanna say anything.
I think we narrowed that down.
Did I say he?
Yes, we really narrowed that.
I don't believe that because he's one of my junior truckers and he talks all the time.
Oh, he talks. All right, well, thank you, everybody.
Thanks for
Appreciate it.
being here.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Oh, great.
Okay, thank you.
Brad, do you want to talk about the calendar?
Yeah, so we have a draft of the 25-26 calendar. For those of you that are interested in seeing that, that'll be posted on our website, it'll be in social media. So we presented at one board meeting, the following board meeting, so March 12th is our upcoming one. That is when we're seeking the Norwalk City School District Board approval. So you have an entire month to look and comment to how that schedule is set, but understand there's been a lot of work put into that by the admin team, by the teachers, working with Norwalk Catholic, in specific Martin Linder, to make sure, because we have to align, we have busing schedules, and all those things have to gel and make sense. So if you look at it, if it's in front of you board members, very similar to this year in the fact of how we are starting. We have our new teacher 1 week earlier than all the entire staff coming. We are continuing with a 2-day all staff start, and then kids begin on August 20th. We are cognizant of the PD days because we know there is so much put on us by the state that we need to make sure, and being an educator, you know this, Mrs. Burkett, that we need to make sure our educators have time to have those trainings, but we also have to respect that we're educators, we need to make sure our kids have time in school. So we're always like balancing act of how much professional development days, how much is we can do that outside of the kid day, the school day, to make sure that we are prepped and ready as staff. So start days are there, the PDs are similar, the 3 days of Thanksgiving for all kids and staff break. And I'm sure we have students up here, you've experienced the full 2 weeks at Christmas time. Was that agreeable to you? Okay, so yes, so that'll be next year as well. We have 2 full weeks at Christmas time. That's the way the calendar, like the following year might be different because then you get a little off, but when you have Christmas in the middle of Wednesday, Thursday, it makes it to do a 2-week pattern pretty simplistic there. I know I'm speaking to breaks, and that's what probably most students are looking at, and staff perhaps as well. So Easter has moved up significantly next year. So we're looking, unlike this year, which is the first time in some time, to actually have spring break and then just a short wraparound weekend at Easter time. We are moving back to what we've traditionally done. Mr. Ritzenthaler, you know that, which is that Good Friday and the following week. So that's all tied together. And that makes sense because Easter is a full 2 weeks earlier than what it is here in '25. Close time, graduation dates, those are very similar. So looking at that, hopefully on Whitney Field at Contractor Stadium on a beautiful sunset, 8 o'clock on a Saturday night, and then staff complete the year officially on June 1. So anyone, this will be posted, social media, Facebook website. If you have comments on that, we will make any tweaks as necessary, and we'll be looking for board approval come March 12th. Any comments on it, or I know you've had a chance to look at it.
Yeah, it looks good.
Good.
I'm very appreciative that we have a scaled back 2-hour delays for the last 2 years.
Yeah.
This was much better.
That was very hard for parents. I think even though it's on the schedule, parents still have a hard time at some jobs, their bosses accepting the 2-hour delays.
Right.
This is very appreciated.
And we've done the early rather than the afternoon period, just because busing is so difficult then. So I know some people argue from a staff PD standpoint to what's best for kids. So we've looked at that early release versus late arrival, and pretty much us and many others have to do this based on our scheduling. So that is why you have the AM. But the fact that it's set, the fact that parents have time to know that, it's far better knowing there's a handful rather than almost double digits of those days that you're having to count
Because
for.
you did some more solid days, right? Yeah, I personally think it's went a lot better this year.
So, and I have to give credit, Mrs. Gerber, who is not here, she does the lion's share of this. And like I said, she runs point. I meet with the unions, we talk with Norwalk Catholic, but I want to let you guys know that Mrs. Gerber is a big part of this, of making this, because I can tell you, I would not be able to have this color perfection that you see on the calendar if it was up to my design. So that's all I have there.
Thanks, Brad. Okay, next is public participation. Each person who wishes to address the board will be asked to give his or her name and address. Remarks should be limited to 3 minutes in length. If after everyone who wishes to do so has had an opportunity to speak, additional comments can be made up to a total allotted time of 30 minutes. All right, we'll go right into treasurer reports. Joyce?
Okay. So we'll start with the January 2025 financial reports. The big thing for January was the school district income tax. Our quarterly payment arrived, $561,475.01. It's for the quarter October to December of 2024. It's the third of 4, so we will have one more yet to come. It was just under last year's payment, same quarter, same time. But some items to note: the interest we received was slightly higher, $6,237 versus $4,711. The state administration fees are 1.5%, so since it was lower, that fee was lower. The greatest difference though on it was the withholding. The state withholds a certain amount of money towards refunds, and they withheld $32,000 this quarter versus $13,000 last year. So technically it was actually above last year's, it was just the state withheld more for refunds. So not too worried about it being slightly under. It's been keeping pace with before. We're still $194,000 to the good for the 3 quarters. So I think we're okay there. We did also receive 2 advances on the real estate tax. The final amount is due this Friday at Valentine's. Do your taxes. Once it arrives, then I will have the final numbers after that. I did meet with our Roland, our county auditor, last week to go over our debt service with the new bonds coming out so that he has all of those numbers. We have a budget commission meeting on the 25th, and that's when we will actually get the tax rates that will be available for the March meeting for approval. Interest was down a little bit this month because the payment from multi-bank, where we broke our CDs, usually comes in by the end of the month, but it actually didn't arrive in the bank until February. So the only interest that we had this month was what was on like our STAR accounts and our Vista account. So February is going to be a little bit larger when it shows up. We did have 2 things mature. We had a treasury note for $150,000 and a government bond for $75,000. Both of those matured in January. One was at 1%, one was at 1.375%. I did reinvest 75,000 of it at 4.05 in a CD, Bank of Utah CD. The other one, as I noted last month, we were running a little bit short on cash lately, a little bit of cash flow problem, so I did not reinvest the 150,000. We just kept it local so that we're able to use it to pay the bills because, as said, we're getting a little short on cash. So January finishes the 7th month of the fiscal year. We are on track with our forecast, so that's all good news. That was the financials. Then we have lots of minutes for you to approve. We have the organizational meeting and the regular meeting and the records retention meeting from January. And then we have our 2 meetings from last week, February 5th and 6th, where we interviewed our owner's rep candidates. Then I have a contract with Meter Public Funds. This is to invest the proceeds for the bonds when we receive them in March. We want to make sure that we were able to get as much investment income from the bonds as possible while still not having any arbitrage issues, which is where the money that we invested is more than what we were paying out of the bonds. So they help keep us on track with that and make sure that they're scheduled so that we have the money available to start paying as the project works out. I did get 2 quotes. I got both meter and rent reinvestment. Meter was 0.06 basis points or rent was 0.08 and meter was 0.06, so they were a little bit less. And they actually, even though they're based out of Dublin, she lives in Wakeman, so I thought that was kind of nice that, you know, had a little bit of a local connection there. The interim deposits, we had a new CD, as I said, with multi-bank securities, the Bank of Utah. Then we have the public library, Norwalk Public Library Board of Trustees. They are asking that you reappoint Kathy Root and Nikki Schwan to the Board of Trustees. And then we have a donation. We had an anonymous donation of $70,000. And we had Ty and Annabelle Kiefer donated towards the Cedar Point band trip. And that is all I have for you this month.
Ms. Joyce, we have a motion to adopt items 1 through 6 on our treasurer reports. Second? Second. Any discussion? Okay. Roll call, please.
Mr. Norris?
Yes.
Mrs. Burkett?
Yes.
Mrs. Crawford?
Yes.
Mr. Ritzenthaler?
Yes.
Personnel.
Yes,
Thank you.
under
Thanks, Joyce.
resignations for personnel. Kelly Protzman, she is a elementary art teacher. She will be resigning effective the end of the school year, rolling through August 15 of 2025. Cynthia Eaton as a cook. Jennifer King, Director of Pupil Services, unbelievable person, unbelievable employee. She will be missed greatly by our district. So I've mentioned to you before, like we say the line, everyone's replaceable. I often challenge that, and she would be one that I would say she is going to be tough to replace. So we might have some internal interest, but then all those other kind of backfill positions, they're difficult to find as well. So we have been blessed to have someone who cares so much about our district for such a long period of time, and that's Jennifer King. So top notch, and we wish her well and a happy retired life here going forward after this school year. And then Jeffrey Mills, a bus driver, we had a termination there effective February 4, 2025. For employment, we had Deontay Jones. Kind of a funny story here is a FedEx driver that came in and visited Kim McConaughey, my secretary, frequently, and now we're hiring him as one of our custodians. So he's been to the buildings delivering the packages, and now he'll make sure our building's in good order going forward. So he's hired, and he was effective here the day after, so February 13th. Tegan Hobbs, that is our cook to replace the resignation from above. And then we have Andrea Butts, educational assistant. So she was actually offered and accepted 2 hours ago. So that is a fresh, that is the freshest of hires that we can do if you approve of her tonight. Number 3, we have employment supplemental contracts. Coaching, Norwalk High School. I'm happy to have Chris Higgins in the mix again here, assistant coach. Norwalk Middle School track, Lori Wilkins. She is a teacher at Main Street. Number 4, we have pupil activity contracts. Norwalk High School baseball, several trucker graduates there, and Andrew Bunshu and Jacob Roth. Helping with Norwalk High School softball, Leo Kuhlman and Skylar Story. And then Norwalk Middle School track, Dave Daniels and Joseph Sutton. Number 5, employment, we have both certified and classified, and I always say every board meeting, happy to have that list. So thank you to Mr. Ballman, who's working on that group to make sure we have quality individuals in that pool, and sometimes it seems like that pool is massive, but these people are sometimes in other districts, so as much as you think like we should have endless opportunities to fill these positions, sometimes these make their services to other places beyond Norwalk. So, but obviously we try to headhunt and get the best because we want them with our kids and in our schools. Number 6, stipend for Best Shy to cover the cost of gifted education coursework to be paid through restricted gifted funding. So that is all I have for personnel.
Thank you, Mr. Cooley. Is there a motion to adopt all items under superintendent's personnel? Second?
Second.
Discussion? I know personally, I think I've known Mrs. King for around 11 years now, and I cannot agree with you more. I am heartbroken that she's leaving, happy for her for retirement, but she truly is not replaceable in my opinion, so I hope we do something big for her here. She deserves every second of it, even if she's not gonna want it, and there'll be tears shed, and I will be one of them, so. But thank you for your report, it's just, I just had to say that. Any other discussion? All right, roll call please.
Mr. Norris?
Yes.
Mrs. Burkett?
Yes.
Mrs. Crawford?
Yes.
Mr. Ritzenfeller?
Yes.
Superintendent's reports.
Yes, number 1 is more like gloating because we get to seemingly do this every year. The success of our robotics team. So why this is the reason it's before you is because it's an overnight experience. So as a school board, you have to approve overnight experiences. So we have Norwalk Middle School and Main Street. That is a combined activity in Dayton, Ohio. So there is the dates for that. I believe the Main Street event is yet to come.
Well,
But that
Main
is
Street has
scheduled as such.
One team that has qualified, and then they have one more qualifying event. Our middle school team we have 2 of our middle school teams that have qualified. So right now, we're taking 7 middle school students and 4 Main Street students down. I'll be down there as one of the coaches, and then, I believe Katie Laser's taking the Main Street ones. One of the coaches is staying back just with everything going on here with a small group.
And so Main Street could have
They could
additional
have more,
kids
correct.
based
That's why
on
we
this
didn't
final
put an actual
competition.
number on there, because
Okay.
they have one more opportunity, which is, I think, February 22nd.
Okay.
So,
And then the second date there is the Norwalk High School team. So we have teams that are set to attend that as well.
Yeah, there's 3, I believe, that have qualified for state as of right now, so.
Okay.
Yes.
So not the best part of the state if we had to choose where that should be, but we didn't have a call on that. So we're headed to Dayton. So we'll go where we need to. And like I said, the kids have a great experience. And, you know, Norwalk is very much known for this. And this is one of those elective and extracurriculars that people gravitate to. And it means a lot to our kids in our community. So number 2, Fisher Tice Medical Center. That is kind of a yearly agreement that we have to serve for occupational health and wellness services. Number 3 is 2025-26 Norwalk High School Program of Studies. We have one of our counselors here, and Sandy Stewart, and she can speak to some of those questions. So what we like to do, a lot of times, like you're rolling over similar courses, but you highlight, just like Mr. Beeman spoke on that. We have some really fun, impressive classes that I think our high school kids will enjoy having. So, Ms. Stewart.
Okay. Some of the changes are kind of forced because graduation requirements change, starting with the class of 26. So social studies, we've always offered senior social studies, just kind of a generic catch-all where they've covered a lot of different things, but we can't offer that anymore. We have to have a specific personal finance class, which is interesting because it can be taught by a social studies teacher, but it can't count as a social studies credit. There's a lot of different things behind it, but so we have to offer financial literacy, which I don't think that's a bad thing whatsoever to teach our kids that, but we also still require 4 social studies credits. So our social studies department already offers psychology as a semester course, sociology, and we're also going to add a decades class. I like history, and I think that sounds super fun. So one semester will focus on the 60s and 70s, one will be the 80s and 90s, which I kind of hate that, like, the time that I was alive can be like a history class, but that is truly the case at this point. But looking at not only important things that happen within our country, within the world, but even just the movies and the music and the fashion trends and all of that kind of thing. So that will be a new addition to social studies. Science is also going to have a new class next year. We're going to try to offer an honors biology course. We offer honors levels for English 1, world history, and our math kids can kind of get started early, but we haven't had that offering in the science department, and they've been kind of kicking it back and forth for a little bit, and they've decided we're doing it. So there will be an offering. My guess is it's going to probably end up being one section. I don't know. We'll kind of see. It will be similar to the Honors World History and Honors English, where as kids register for classes, everybody signed up for English 1, World History, Biology. And then the middle school teachers will make recommendations. Kids will take placement tests if they're interested, and that's where some of that determination will be made. With math, it's so weird. Usually I'm a big, like, I want as many AP courses as possible. I'm kind of excited. We're actually going to get rid of AP Computer Science Principles and have a semester-long Computer Science Principles. What I like about this is it's going to be way more accessible to more kids. I think it's going to interest more people when they can take a semester where they don't have to take a big exam at the end of the year to kind of see how they do versus a year-long AP course right now. We will still have AP Computer Science A, so there's going to be that higher level that we're teaching. And as far as the 2 AP Computer Sciences that we offer, Computer Science A is the more beneficial one going into college on a transcript anyway. So I think this is just a really good gateway to get more kids into that basic computer science, which is a skill that probably in over half of the jobs that they're going to have, it's going to benefit them. In business, we are switching a couple things up. So we currently do not have a CTE or a career tech agreement for business, but we are working on the application to have that in place for next year so we can have an actual career tech pathway. Mr. Bauman's worked with Mr. Kenya quite a bit on that. And you have to have at least 4 classes that fall within that. Well, we used to offer finance, but now that personal finance is going to be a grad requirement, everything kind of changed there. So in place of that, we still offer our Intro to Business course. We still have our accounting course. We still have marketing. We're going to add a supply chain management. We kind of looked at all of the different things, and that one just kind of hit on, we don't cover that in anything else. It covers so many different career fields to understand not only like the supply, demand, but even the logistics kind of behind getting things where they're supposed to be. So that's going to be added. And the other course we're adding is a computer applications. And what we have found over the past year or two is maybe like my generation, even the generation behind me, we all grew up using Microsoft Word. We've made the transition into Google. To us, they're pretty similar. Our current students they've never used Microsoft Office. Some of our kids taking college courses, they're required to attach something, like they're required to attach a Word document. They don't know how to do that. They're like, how do I share this? What do I, like, it's not Google, you don't share. And we're talking kids who are smart kids that they've just never been exposed. So we're going to bring back a class where we're teaching them Microsoft Office. So it's going to cover Word, Excel, a little bit of PowerPoint. I don't know if he's going to touch on Access at all or not. The other thing with it, like Word for some of those college type courses, but in every single career coach meeting I sit through, every business, I'm talking Norwalk Concrete to Fisher Titus tells me we use Excel. And our kids aren't familiar in it. It's similar to Sheets, but it's not the same. So we're really thinking this is a step in the right direction for making them more employable after high school. Other than that, they were just some updates that we made. We realized, we offer driver education, but we didn't have a description in there. We have to offer financial literacy. We added our description for that. Since we're not offering a seated French class, we took those descriptions out, and I think I covered most of the major changes. So do you guys have any questions?
No, I love all those ideas. I cannot wait for the class of the 80s and 90s. But actually, yeah, I don't.
Do you want us to have you as a guest speaker?
I can make the AOL noise and it'll mean something to me. No, but I can't agree more on Microsoft Office. And Teams and everything. It's pretty much used in every, like you said, it doesn't matter what field. It could be healthcare, it could be concrete, it could be construction. Pretty much everybody uses Excel. So that's going to give everybody a step up. It's great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Number 4 is a CCP agreement with Lorraine Community College. That is one of many that's going to be before you. 5 is agreement with NFP Corporate Services. They're going to help our district, our entire employee staff going forward with some of our contracts. 6, the recommendation through Mrs. King, Jennifer King, ABA outreach for therapy services for some of our students. 7 is 25-26, so this is an annual, we have to declare membership in the Ohio High School Athletic Association, and that is commitment to both Norwalk High School and to the Norwalk Middle School. And the final one there is withdrawing from the SBC and forming a new 10-team athletic conference with the following 9 schools in addition to us. This would be effective in the 2026-2027. So not this following year, but the year after is when that would take effect. So similar schools, if you look at those are the Lake, those are the Bay schools. So generally the ones we participate with. So you're not gonna see much difference in what we've done over the course of time. So what I always argue for is we want our kids to have, competitive schools, schools of similar size that we can have good competition with. And that's what we're looking to. So we're looking to move forward with that, and the teams in that lineup are very excited to make this happen. Mr. Slaughter is here if you have any questions beyond that, but I've communicated that to you so you know the basis for why we're asking for withdrawal, and then your permission to form this new 10-team athletic conference. So that is all I have for superintendent reports.
Thank you. Is there a motion to adopt all items under superintendent's reports? Second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Have the other schools already withdrawn?
So there's been, one school's gone tonight, and then Perkins is tonight as well. So we're probably number 3, in the lineup as of tonight. So that's just a matter of who's scheduled on the earliest on the calendar. But that's been worked, so this has been worked all year long by principals. So superintendents do not lead. So when we were the NOL and now the SBC, executive team is by high school principals. So Mr. Kania has a vote. If he is not there, his proxy is Mr. Slaughter. So that work has been going all through this year, so it's not a surprise. And I know some of the media outlets and some of the people have asked, like, did this just happen? This is being discussed for some time, and that's why typically with 2-year contracts, you're scheduling out 2 years in advance, but we're essentially in agreement that this counts as year 1, 25, 26 is year 2, and then we're able to separate to make sure our scheduling, all those things are in good order.
Correct.
We don't have a name yet for this.
No, there's been a lot of discussion of that, but that has not been agreed upon yet. So a lot of names have been floated out there, and we're hoping here in the next couple of months that we'll come to a consensus with those 10 schools on what this league will be called. So I have my favorites, that I like, but we got to get a consensus from everybody. So.
And it looks like there'll be 2 divisions.
Yes. And this will help attract, we're looking to expand this to make it a little bit bigger, so we can have 2 divisions. Ideally, we'd like to get to 12, we'd like to get to 14, with like-sized schools, similar community ideals, so this will help us get there.
And that's all up to the population of the district. I mean, in the first 3 grades, is it, on the kids? For how large a school?
That's OHSA.
Yeah, that's OHSA.
That's the OHSA enrollment.
Right.
So they do
enrollment.
the rising 9 through 11. So that's what that number's based on. So males and females within the rising 9 to 11 program. So that'll set your determination for seeds and play in the tournament.
Yeah. It'll be very, very similar to what we're at right now. It was just difficult with as many teams as we had to keep everything straight and to do a lot of the things that we want to do. So it's going to help us attract bigger schools that fit with the 10 of us. So it's going to be a better fit for us. Yeah.
They're pretty much very local, and
Yep.
so it'll be easy to host or go, and
Exactly.
I don't really know much about this, it's not my strong suit, but I mean, I'd like to see the list, and I think that it will be great to watch our athletes, no matter if they're home or away, so.
Very united group of schools
Yeah.
that get along very well.
Like-minded.
Communities, good fan bases, and great athletes at all the schools. So good competitive league.
So with the, pivoting slightly to, say, a 7-division sport, the ones in the upper conference, in the upper division, typically the most you're off is 1 division.
Yes, it'll be from the schools there in the top division. We're all Division 3 or Division 4 schools, and then it's Division 4, Division 5. I don't know, Huron may be a Division 6 school now, but I know their enrollment's gone down a little bit. So, but all in that general area.
So with our girls' basketball team success, you look at that, we wind up sharing with Bellevue. So we are different divisions,
Yep.
So it's kind of nice, so we can have a Bellevue go far, we can have a Norwalk go far. We're not gonna see each other, but yeah, that's still good, because you want, enrollment's gotta be close. And we're, like I said, in those bigs, we're one division apart in there, so that makes sense. Because if you're a small school, you like to beat up on bigger schools, but when you're not good, and you start losing, and then you realize, like, we're small, we should not be here, but, so.
This be interesting, yeah, this be interesting how this all works out.
Yeah.
I think it's exciting too.
Yeah, it is. I'm excited to see where this goes, and like I said, we want to attract a couple more schools to this, and it'll even be better. So this is the right step in that direction.
And there's enough room to do that too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's good.
And they have done reach out. I don't think we're ready to name names or schools by any means, but there has been that reach out step, so there are those discussions in play.
So the word's out there, would you like to join our league?
There's been discussions, yes.
Yeah, okay.
It's a great group, I don't see you not getting a couple more teams to join in.
Yeah.
Alright, any more discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Norris?
Yes.
Mr. Ritzenthaler?
Yes.
Mrs. Burkett? Mrs. Crawford?
Yes. Okay, next, any board discussion or comments before we move into executive? You have anything?
I want to speak to owner's rep, that's what we've done.
Oh, gosh, yes, so, sorry. So last week, we did have two special meetings to go over owner's rep applications. They did presentations for us. We had 7, right? 7, I think. Oh, wow. Just kidding. 5. And they were all very, very good. So we were gonna be making a decision on that. We had a great team that listened to all the presentations. An owner's rep for us is someone who, during this project of a new school build, is gonna be our voice in different aspects of the build. So they have experience with K through 12 building projects, if they're some construction side, some OFCC side, issues that could happen, just so that we always make sure that our voice is heard during this project, because having the state also at the table, we want to just make sure that we're all on the same page and it's that representative for us. I think that we had really great candidates. I was actually very, very surprised and happy about who we have, and we'll be making a decision very soon. So if anybody has any questions about that or what they're gonna do for us, please don't hesitate to let us know or contact central office, but I think it went really well.
But the owner's rep reports to us, the board, on a regular basis. So we'll know what's going on through the project across the street, hopefully, and we'll go from there.
And they'll be here for the entirety of the project, so from starting in the next couple weeks, all the way to when they're, what they say, boots on the ground, checking to make sure that everything that we have designed is going up as planned. So they have all of the strengths in all those areas, and we were really lucky to have a good amount of people to choose from, so.
So 2 dates of note, the day after President's Day, so February 18th, next Tuesday, we are on the agenda for the Huron County Commissioners. So we're going to be speaking to them, and many people prior to November 5th were asking the questions, what are we doing in the purchase of land? So we have the opportunity on November 18th to speak to Huron County Commissioners with that regard. So that'll be happening at 9:15 on February 18th. On February 28th, so the last day of the month, we are having our OFCC kickoff. So that is when we're meeting with the state officials, and they'll obviously play a large hand in guiding our next steps along the way before we go with the construction manager at RIS, an architect, and those interviews that have to take place by this board. So those are 2 important dates that'll be happening here this month.
No, Joyce, you know, I probably shouldn't be the one talking about it, but want to touch on Moody's too, since we haven't had one meeting since we were at Moody's.
We have not.
Well, we had a special meeting, but not
Right,
the regular.
we did
session.
receive our Moody's rating. We kept the same rating that we had on our previous bonds. We do have the credit enhancement to the state of Ohio, so that gave us an underlying boost to our credit rating, so that was really good. We sold the bonds last Wednesday, and it went very well. There were more buyers for the bonds than there were bonds, so that allowed us to reduce the interest rate on a couple of the longer ones from 5% down to 4.75, and also to sell the bonds at a premium. So that meant we have a little bit more money to put away to make the first payment on it. So we're really well, yeah. And I don't have the list of everybody that bought it. I do know that one of our local banks has invested $250,000. worth of bonds that they're gonna keep for their investment portfolio, and I know there's other financial advisors that were interested, but I don't know yet how much, what the numbers are, so it's went really well. Step one.
Check.
As many.
As many, yeah, we will be having a lot of meetings, and we'll have a lot of community input as it goes along, so it's very exciting. And there's a lot of steps before we can break ground, so let us know if you want any updates as we go through it. And like I said, a lot of these sessions that we're having are public sessions, so feel free to join. Anything else? Okay, all right, so next we're gonna be going into executive session at this time, for the following purpose: to consider the purchase of property for public purposes, the sale of property at competitive bidding, or the sale or disposition of unneeded, obsolete, or unfit for use property in accordance with section 505.10 of the Ohio Revised Code. Any questions or comments before we go? And there should be no action expected after executive session. No? All right, we're going time is 7:19.
I'll make a
Oh,
motion.
sorry.
Yeah, motion to go.
We have a
executive
motion to go into executive session. Second. Okay, roll call please.
Mr. Ritzenhouse?
Yes.
Mr. Norris?
Yes.
Mrs. Burkett? Yes. Mrs. Crawford?
Yes. Sorry. 2.5 hours of sleep.